Hey everyone, Kyle Erickson here. Today we are checking out Samsung's newest set of wireless earbuds, the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2. These were released along the new Samsung Flip and Fold phones and are currently priced around $150 US. I've actually been a big fan of Samsung Buds overall. I've been using the Buds Plus for about a year or so, and I think they are one of my personal favorites that I've used. Since those were released, Samsung has released a few other earbuds with varying degrees of success. The Buds Live, which were met with mixed reviews, and the more expensive Buds Pro, which are a more expensive set with a few more options and features, and they were a lot better reviewed overall. The Buds 2 come in as a cheaper alternative than the Pros, still somewhat resembling them, but with less features. The packaging is pretty standard. Inside you'll find the buds in the case, along with the USB-C cable for charging, and a set of 3 ear tips. The packaging for me is a little bit bland, there's nothing really fancy here. And as soon as I opened up the box with the ear tips, they just fell out on the floor. Maybe nitpicking a little bit here, but I do think it's worth mentioning considering a lot of the cheaper branded headphones that I've been reviewing here have actually been packaged a little bit nicer. That being said, the actual product is pretty sharp looking. The model I have here is graphite, but you can also get these in white, lavender, and olive. The case on any color that you pick up is going to be two-tone with white on the outside. It's kind of perfect for me because I really like the black on white aesthetic. It's also got a simple square design that takes up a pretty small surface area at 50mm by 50mm, and it's 28mm tall. The case has a USB-C charge port, and it also supports wireless charging. As far as the case goes, pretty standard design. And I think the size is pretty much on par with what you're going to see from a good set of buds. The hinge is really strong. This doesn't feel flimsy at all. It's a lot less flimsy than a lot of other models that I've tried, and I haven't had any issues with damage or scratching. The buds themselves are graphite in color. The design is very simple. They're really smooth and rounded. And on the inside there is a woofer and a tweeter in the earbud, accompanied by 3 mics for calls and ANC. They've got no stems, which I do like a little bit more than stem models. And each earbud only weighs 5 grams each, so they're incredibly lightweight. But these do only have an IPX2 water and dustproof rating, which is down from IPX7 on the Buds Pro. So I'd probably avoid putting these in situations where you're coming into contact with too much moisture. The plastic on these is high gloss, so hopefully that doesn't translate into scratches. I've been pretty careful with these, but just something to look out for. On the plus side, these do feel great in my ears. Only weighing 5 grams I think has a lot to do with that because you barely notice these when they're in. And the more rounded design feels a little bit more comfortable than some of the more rigid models that I've tried. You can also test the fitment of these earbuds in the Wear app, similar to how you can with AirPods, but the app itself is one of the main issues that I have with these headphones. So looking back at the Buds Plus for a second, if I have an iPhone, I can just download the Galaxy Buds app and I can pair those up and I'm ready to go. I've got everything available to me in my companion app. If we then come over to the Buds 2, there is actually no companion app for iOS, which seems silly to me. I know that Apple does the same kind of things with AirPods, but to me, it's just a little bit weird to not have this available, especially when over 50% of the mobile market share here in North America is Apple. And when you're already supporting a whole bunch of different wearables and headphones on iOS, on apps that still seem like they're being maintained and worked on. Just a little bit of a bummer for me, but if you're on Android, everything works just as expected. You get your companion app and you get a few other features if you're on Samsung, which I will touch on in a bit. In the app, you have access to your noise controls where you can adjust your ANC or ambient sound levels, and your touch controls, of which there aren't many options. You can basically just turn functionality off and on. The only real customizable portion here is the touch and hold options that are still pretty limited. Also, just a note here about the touch controls on the buds. These are really sensitive in some places, so even adjusting a bud in your ear often results in an unwanted click. So it can be a little bit annoying in that sense, and I've also had them not pick up touches when I was trying to pause or skip a track, so that has been kind of annoying. As I mentioned earlier, it does have a earbud fitment test, which does seem to work pretty well. The app also has a Find My Earbuds feature and a sound profile selector where they have 6 EQ settings. These aren't adjustable, they're just presets. I usually just leave them set to normal personally because I find that the sound profile is fine and probably the best sounding one out of the gate. And speaking of the sound, one of, if not the most important part of this product is obviously the sound quality. The out-of-the-box sound profile, as I mentioned, is really good. I actually find these very similar to my Buds Plus. They've got a bit punchier bass, but are still very detailed and clear. I will say that on some tracks, the bass probably does take a little bit away from the detail, but overall, it doesn't sound muddy or over the top. I listen to tons of different music genres, and I find them to work really well in each one. Again, very similar to the Buds Plus, and overall, great sound. What these do have that the Buds Plus don't have is active noise cancellation, which works how you would probably expect it to on a set of buds like these. They do a pretty good job of passively getting rid of noise just with a proper fitment. And with the ANC on, it will filter out things like persistent hums from AC units or engine noise, but it's not going to dampen sounds like key presses on a mechanical keyboard and higher pitched or really abrupt noise. The ambient noise feature, which actually brings in noise from your surroundings, works pretty well. It's better than a lot of cheaper options out there that have this feature, but it's still not as good as AirPods Pros, which sound a little bit more natural. These also do not have Samsung's 360 audio that's present in the Buds Pros, so if you're looking for a more immersive experience, you'll probably want to move up to the Pros if you're still looking to stick with Samsung. Both the ambient noise and the ANC utilize the mics in each earbud. ANC uses 2 to cut out background noise, and there's 1 left to pick up your voice on calls. And on calls, the buds do a decent job of filtering out background noise, and overall they've performed really well. Everyone that I've talked to on these said that I've sounded and come through very clear, and I'd say overall these would be really good if you're having a meeting or taking a call in a little bit busier atmosphere. These have also been great connection-wise. These buds support Bluetooth 5.2, have SBS and AAC codecs, and if you have a Samsung device, they'll also support Samsung's own scalable codecs. There is no aptX supported at all, so on non-Samsung devices, you'll probably be using AAC. If you are on a Samsung device, you can take advantage of Samsung's auto switch feature, which lets the buds switch between Samsung devices seamlessly. So they're definitely trying to push their own ecosystem. I don't have a ton of Samsung devices, so I'll leave that for someone else to comment on. As far as just a regular connection goes, wireless range has been really good. I've been able to go up 2 floors in my house before getting any connection issues, and I haven't had any issues with desynchronization. I would say the range on these beats out any of the buds that I've tried personally, so definitely a win there. And finally, the battery. On these buds without the case, you'll get around 5 hours playback with the ANC on, and about 7.5 with it off. With the case, you're gonna get around 20 hours with ANC and 29 without. And that is a little bit of a letdown as well. There are plenty of buds that far exceed these times. In one of my more recent videos, I looked at the Tribit Flybud C1s, and they were over double this. I know that they don't have ANC, but for a major brand like Samsung and for the price tag, I was expecting a little bit more. And I guess that's just kind of what I take away from all of this in general. I guess I was just expecting a little bit more for the price and based on what we've seen in the past. Sure, they do offer some improvements over past versions, but they also aren't as great in some areas as well. To me, it's really a toss-up if it's worth grabbing these over just the regular Buds Plus, and if you're on an iPhone, I definitely would steer clear of these. They might make more sense if you're on an Android phone, and they're probably a good deal if you're sporting a bunch of Samsung gear, but I think they could have done a lot better job on these personally. I would also love to know what you guys think of these, especially if you're on a Samsung device. It would be really interesting to hear from some folks in different ecosystems and their experience with these. Or if you just have a question that I didn't answer in this video, you can also drop that in a comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It really does help me out a bunch. And don't forget to subscribe to see more tech-related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.